Let me come back to that because that's going to be very important. When I talk about ESG and sustainability, I get a lot of different looks. In fact, some people look at me like I'm from a different planet. Well, I'm from a planet where there's hope, there's opportunity, there's a future. And I'll cut to the chase. I'm from a planet where we use only one planet's worth of resources. I'm from this planet. This is the perspective from 6 billion kilometers away. It's called the pale blue dot photo. It's our planet from a very different perspective. It's part of a series of photos that were taken by the Voyager 1 spacecraft in 1990. So there was a family portrait of other planets. This is the only planet that can sustain life. But we continue to use resources as if the other planets in the family are available for us to use and continue to use. So in terms that we would use in the business world, we're over budget, we're over leveraged. According to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, 45% of energy and greenhouse gas emissions comes from industry, agriculture, and land use. With current global trends, we are consuming the resources, the carrying capacity of this blue dot at a rate of 1.5 to 1.7 planets today. We're living on borrowed time. If we all lived like you do here in the United Kingdom, we would be using 2.5 planets. If you all lived like the way we do in the States, we would be using the resources of 5. So that is an ominous, scary thought. Let's put that aside, and I have some reasons, hopefully, that you can believe that there may be opportunities, options, solutions that can help us operate and live within that carrying capacity. So let me tell you a little bit more about where I'm from. I'm from the state of Wisconsin in the United States. You may not know this, but it's the home of Earth Day. Senator Gaylord Nelson from Wisconsin established this day 1 year before I was born in 1970. He has said the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, not the other way around. Let me repeat that. The economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, not the other way around. Let me do a little bit deeper dive and zero in on the city that I'm from. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and coming to you from Milwaukee. It's the second largest city on Lake Michigan, just after Chicago. This city was named after the First Nations Native American words for good and beautiful. Those first peoples, those First Nations, those Native Americans believed in truth and respect for each other and for all creation. It's certainly something that is embedded into the culture of Milwaukee. At one time, Milwaukee was known as the tool shop to the world. Some of you may know it for beer. It is surrounded by fresh water, and it's become an epicenter for water development, water resources, water purification, and technology. But it's also a place that has some examples, some significant examples of the circular economy. So what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit more about 3 of those examples, reasons that I believe can give us hope. Now, they're not completely perfect. They're not without issue, but they are taking advantage of opportunities. They are long-standing, multi-generational examples of a circular economy. It does exist. It can exist. It can work. And it does work in these 3 examples. So first, this is such a great acronym because it reminds me of something you would do here in Britain. MMSD. It is the name of the Milwaukee Metro Sewage District. pretty much certain that no one of you have ever heard of this particular government organization. Well, it operates the sewer systems for the city of Milwaukee and the greater area. Over 500,000 people live in this area, and it has a very unique, one-of-a-kind type program that utilizes that waste to create fertilizer. And it's done so since 1926. So a unique problem that the city faced on how to handle sanitation and how to handle this product, which some people would call waste, this co-product, and turn it into something of value. So they created Milorganite. It's short for Milwaukee's Organic Nitrogen. So it is taking that waste product, taking the microbes out of that product, and create an organic fertilizer. And it's done so generation after generation after generation. So this fertilizer is sold all across the United States, particularly in the Midwest. And since 1926, it's avoided 4.5 billion metric tons of waste going to landfill. Now, at the time, no one was talking about circular economy. No one was talking about ESG or sustainability. There was a problem. There was an opportunity. There were resources available. It is a very unique situation where we live by a lake. We live by a very big lake. So the opportunity to discharge and clean the water from the sewage system into Lake Michigan was there. This uses energy. This uses natural gas to dry and process that organic material, but that investment in energy, in greenhouse gas emissions, produces a product that can be used, and my family uses it, my wife uses it, and I can attest that it's part of a circular economy. But that's not the only example. I'd like to talk to you about the shoes I'm wearing today. They may seem unremarkable to you, but in fact, they are quite the opposite. There's one last remaining manufacturer of men's shoes in the United States of America. It happens to have a factory a few miles north of Milwaukee, where I live. They've been building and constructing and crafting men's shoes since 1922. Presidents, CEOs, big-name celebrities, everyone who wears men's dress shoes in the United States most certainly knows about Edmonds. They're sold around the world. So what's the big deal about shoes? Well, it's not just the shoes they make. It's the process that they sell. It's about the offering they provide to their customers to recraft their term, their trademark, their shoes. Their VP of manufacturing has talked about their shoes are one of the very few products that you can buy, beat the heck out of, send back to them, and basically get a new pair in return. I can attest to that. It may take 6 weeks, but they run a 36-step process using the same machines, the same processes that they use to make these shoes, to recraft them. And they will do it over and over and over again. Just another example of a resource, of a product, of a solution, of an investment going further through an example of some of the circular economy practices that this company uses. You can buy the shoes here. You can send them back to Wisconsin. You can get back a brand new pair after you beat the heck out of them. So let me talk a little bit about my company. It was mentioned that Clarios is the world's largest producer of low-voltage batteries. Well, most people don't know what that means. So we're not the high-voltage motive or drive battery that you would have in an electric vehicle, but we are as critical to the operation of those vehicles than that battery. The low voltage battery is a 12-volt or similar voltage battery that operates the critical systems that are necessary for any vehicle to operate, perform efficiently, and most importantly, keep people safe. So the systems that are increasingly in demand for this kind of resource, this kind of power, include increasing autonomy, increasing efficiency, to be able to manage the systems of safe charging, discharging, and crash avoidance and other safety items. As autonomy takes over, the demands for these critical systems become even more and more important. So we have been a company that was part of a multi-industrial company for many years. We have a heritage of over 100 years of making batteries around the world and sell traditional starter lighting and ignition batteries for internal combustion engine vehicles, lead-acid batteries, and we have learned and worked with virtually every automaker on the planet, some that have been around forever, many of the names that you have heard in the news and the newer entrants in the market today, and the need for the kind of technology that can provide stable, secure, consistent, safe power for these critical systems has led us to continue to use that lead-acid chemistry for that application. We also make low-voltage lithium-ion batteries to work in tandem, in many cases, with those lead-acid batteries, with the automakers to take that capability even further. But what makes us unique is our ability to take old batteries and turn them into new ones. In fact, our business would not exist if we couldn't do that. So what do? We do a one-for-one battery exchange. When we try to sell a battery, we want to recover a battery and get that back. It doesn't matter if we made the battery. It doesn't matter if it's exactly the same size that we're selling. It doesn't matter if there's multiple batteries that somebody wants to return back. We want it, because that is the start of our supply chain. For us, our raw materials come from around the corner, not around the world. They come from an auto parts store, an auto dealer, a repair shop, where people are replacing batteries throughout their lifespan. 1 in 3 vehicles on the road around the world has a battery of this kind that we make. By doing this, it provides us a resilient, local, low carbon, low energy footprint source of raw materials that allows us to turn those right back into new batteries. And new batteries that are now specifically designed for the EV and electric vehicle revolution that we're supporting. And in doing so, we are able to use resources that use 80 to 90% less embodied energy and greenhouse gas emissions. Across our portfolio of products, we use about 80% recycled material, either through material that we recycle ourselves, particularly the lead, the polypropylene, and other materials to turn right back into polypropylene cases, lead batteries, and new products for either original equipment automakers or the replacement product that they have. There's opportunity for us to do even more, to go from 80 to 85 to 90 and above. In fact, for one customer in the United States, we have certified with Underwriters Labs and validated that 93 to 94% of the raw materials that go into their premium brand product come from this closed loop or circular system. So what about the new generation of batteries? Adam, that makes sense. You use that for conventional batteries, but they're a different chemistry, they're a different type. So I would ask, well, why can't we do it this way? The simplicity of the product that we sell today, the standardization that has come out decades after decades of the market adopting, technology adopting to a very simple, effective, efficient, and capable product can also be recycled, can also be collected, can also be transported, can also be managed in a very safe and responsible and effective way. So why can't that be used for other products? In fact, that is the mindset we take to our products and solutions today. For our lithium-ion product, we could have used any type of plastic for the case. But why? We know how to use polypropylene. We have recycling centers that can take and separate the polypropylene. Let's use polypropylene. So we may not be able to take every single component of a lithium-ion battery today and turn it back into a new battery, but we can certainly take the case. We can certainly take some of the other components in there. And we can certainly work with those who are trying to find ways to take cathode material and turn it to cathode material, and anode material, take it into anode material, because it can be done. It's been proven that it can be done, but can it be done at scale yet? Can it be done around the world? Not yet, but why not? And so those are part of the questions that we continue to ask. We work in the United States with the national labs that are focused on resource utilization, battery chemistries. The world needs 4 times more energy storage, chemical batteries, than we're using today by 2030 and 2035. 4 times more. There's only so many metals and materials on the periodic table that can be used for energy storage. We need them all. And we need to be able to do them in a circular way. We need to be able to collect, manage, reuse those resources, get the maximum life out of every energy storage device we can do. And we need to do that in a way that's accessible and available to make sure electric vehicles, electromobility is not something available just for the elite, but for everyone. And not just for the original car that comes off the lot, but for those cars that go to a second, third, and fourth owner, and that continue to be maintained. And from when those vehicles are at their end of life, that all of the materials, including and especially the battery materials from that vehicle, are recovered and responsibly recycled. In fact, that is why we work with the Global Battery Alliance, formed with the World Economic Forum, to help foster this conversation globally, to really identify opportunities to use information, data, resources, capabilities that we all have today to understand the provenance of materials, to understand where they're going, into what vehicle, to make sure chain of custody is managed, to be able to understand as that vehicle or that battery or that pack changes hands, as second life opportunities may be explored, that can be facilitated through these types of solutions. These are all things that were done before, maybe during discussions about regulation, but they weren't prompted by regulation. They were prompted by this understanding that there are true opportunities in the circular economy. It comes from an appreciation and understanding of some of our colleagues in Milwaukee who are doing the kind of things that we're talking about here today. So what I would like to do is leave you with another challenge. Yesterday, there was a presenter who talked about appreciative inquiry. Maybe something you haven't heard of, but in its most simple terms, we are the questions we ask. We are the questions we ask. So I hear a lot of questions, and I hear a lot of dialogue, rightfully so, about regulations, about compliance, about I have to do this or I have to do this. All of that is very important. Please don't get me wrong. But we need to ask more questions. But why can't we live within the constraints of this one planet? It's all we have. The last time I checked, we're the only inhabitable planet with this kind of resources. Why can't we embrace the words of Gaylord Nelson, who said the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, not the other way around? And if we think about it in business terms, the kind of terms that we think about of taking investment, like the investment in greenhouse gases, in energy, in time, for me to be here today, we expect a return. I expect a return. I hope you will ask these questions within your organization. Many of these examples are not perfect. All of these examples, frankly, involve trade-offs. And the discussions, the transparency, the engagement on these opportunities is paramount. And I do appreciate the chance to talk to you today. And I would ask you to ask yourself, your organization, what are we going to do to help us live on this planet? Because when people talk to me and they say, what planet are you from? I'm from the one that only uses one planet worth of resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. As you said, we need to ask more questions, so I'm hoping there are people in the audience who have a question. Plenty of questions. Okay, if we can just get a microphone up there, please. If we can start at the back, Tom, and then maybe work our way down. And when you get the microphone, if you can please start just by stating your name and what organisation you're representing, if any, please.
Hi there. I'm Gareth Dinage from a company called Seacourt. We're planet positive printers. We're actually net carbon negative, so climate positive.
Thank you.
So we are also in the circular economy, have been for 13 or 14 years. My question is, how many more organisations in your vertical are actively involved in the circular economy? Is it prevalent, or are you the outrigger?
So thank you for that question. For us, we are the largest player in the low voltage battery market for mobility, but we're not the only one. And we weren't the only one over time. The company has grown through acquisition, but it has created an environment working with governments, working with supply chain, working with customers to establish the technology, the recovery, the circular systems that are required over a generation. So we're the lucky recipients of those decisions that were made to really identify the economic opportunity, the regulatory requirements, and the hard work that was done in countries around the world, like here in the UK and elsewhere, to help facilitate the kind of circular economy that we exist and have today. So it is sector-wide. Not everyone does it maybe to the same scale or effect or efficiency that we do, but it is certainly something that is across the sector and something that we are driving beyond just even the low voltage battery market to apply to all batteries, from raw material suppliers to end-of-life consumers at the end of life of a vehicle or battery pack.
Okay, take the next question, please. Just wait till the microphone comes down to you. Thank you.
Danielle Doza from Venture Forward Strategies in Cleveland, Ohio. Glad to see the Great Lakes represented. So we're working on a cohort to introduce concepts of circularity and sustainability to small, medium-sized manufacturing companies. You know, how would you start a conversation with those types of SMEs who maybe haven't even had time to think about the world or their impacts, but now they're getting pressure from, you know, down their supply chain because they provide to bigger companies or anything like that, when they haven't even started thinking about this yet?
I generally point at my shoes. Seriously, Allen Edmonds is a smaller company that's been acquired, but it's a small, medium-sized enterprise. They can do it. And I could give you a myriad more examples in Milwaukee of rebuilding chillers or pumps or sensors or automation motors or other things, because there's value, there's opportunities, but it takes looking at your business a different way. Now, I could have maybe entitled this speech, "A Circle Isn't a Straight Line." That's the second thing I would say, is we're so used to a linear mode, it's hard to get out of that paradigm. So think about, if your supplier and customer are exactly the same and it starts at the same point, what does that mean? It's a pretty radical thought, but once you get your arms around that, there are opportunities, be it a small mom and pop shop to a medium enterprise to a global enterprise like Clarios or others.
Okay, we'll take maybe a couple more questions. If we can just try and get the microphone down into the centre here, Tom, just one row down, I think. There you go. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Chris Forbes. I'm the co-founder of Cheeky Panda, which is a bamboo tissue business. What I'd like to know, how do you feel about companies that are setting targets for 2030 or 2050, which is 8 or 22, 28 years away?
So I would quote Sting and the Police. So I was waiting for a question where I could do this. I started with this quote, 1981, Ghost in the Machine, great song. One world is enough, not three. Now, Sting was talking about first world, second world, third world, but, we're operating pretty close to 2.5 worlds today here in the UK. We can't keep doing that. If we were spending over our budget, we were spending and leveraged and in debt over our capacity to repay as a business, we wouldn't be in business. Not 2035 in the next quarter, 2, 3, 4, next fiscal year. So just apply the same business thinking, the same business mentality that we have. That's why it's so important that all of you, and the ask is to ask these questions. We as business people, as sustainability business people, know how to take limited resources and expect return. So that's what I would talk to anyone about. That's why we are going through with the blueprint that was mentioned in the intro to be very deliberate and intentional about the goals we set for 2035, 2050, so we can have actionable results in year one, in quarter one.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We are out of time. Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you so much, Adam. Great session.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.